when you are
Is this
basically
Waterloo?
you are basically siding with a very far left conspiracy theory in this very conservative state of South Carolina.
Have you had anybody come up to you and say Building 7? Have you had Building 7?
No.
Oh,
no.
Walk around. Be on television a little more. You'll get the Building 7 guys. That's the theory.
But it is remarkable that you've got, a Republican candidate on a Republican debate essentially quoting the Bush lied, people died bumper sticker from the left.
The presidency is often defined by the unexpected. There's going to be crises, and it's important to have a president who can handle them with calm resolve. When Americans woke up on September the 11th, we did not know that the world would forever change that day. I was sitting in a classroom in Florida, listening to a child read. My chief of staff, South Carolina graduate Andy Card, whispered in my ear, "A second plane has hit the second tower. America is under attack." My first reaction is, "That's hot. We're going to deal with these people." My second reaction, when I was staring at this young child, is that my job became crystal clear, and that is to protect her, her community, and her country. On the way to Air Force One from that school, Condi called me and said a plane has hit the Pentagon. I felt the first one was an accident, the second was an attack, and the third one was a declaration of war. I became something that no president should ever want to be, a wartime president. And I made a lot of tough calls, every one of them with that child's image in my mind, to protect her and the country she's fortunate enough to call home.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks for tuning in. Alright, so I can't let this opportunity go by without saying something, because 9/11 just isn't in the dialogue of the mainstream media nearly enough. They only use it as a threat, and to me there's two examples here of clear evidence of not only that the Bush people knew that 9/11 was an inside job, whoever it is that pulled it off. I'm not saying I know, I'm just going to point out something that's fact here of what I saw on that day and how it doesn't make any sense, doesn't add up. And I'm going to point out that the media knows, the media is continuously questioned by good Americans who care about truth, unlike the media. On a regular basis, walk around, you'll hear it, Building 7, okay, and they're lying about not knowing, okay? The George W. Bush clip. Let's start there, because what it shows to me, this is what I've always thought, and I've never heard anybody actually say this, but on the day of September 11th, George Bush was sitting in a classroom full of children when the Twin Towers were hit by planes, okay? And he continued to stay there. Now, he said himself, he knows that the buildings are, that America is under attack. He knows that, okay? He knows that the whole world knows where he's at, because he's holding this whole, big, high profile, oh look, I'm at an elementary school because I care so much about children event, where he's reading My Pet Goat to children, right? With the book upside down for some weird reason, right? So, and this is the deal. He says, when the second plane hit, I knew we were under attack. Okay, so if you know that you're under attack, you remember what happened after that was, he sat there for, I forget, 17 minutes or something, and then after he sat there for 17 minutes, they decided they were going to have a press conference at the school, and they had to have a big assembly, bring all the kids in, and then in the auditorium, and it took like another 45 minutes for them to get a press conference going and done, and it was like an hour before they were out of school, after they knew that they were in attack. So if they know that they're under attack, then they know that George Bush is a target, and the whole world knows where George Bush is. Again, remember, right after the press conference, they put him on a plane on Air Force One, and then they flew it around for like 6 hours, and nobody knew where George Bush was at for like 6 or 8 hours. And that was because they had to keep it secret, because it was dangerous, because he was a target, and they didn't know blah, 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 what might be next. But in the first hour of the attack, they had to have known that he was also a target, and they sat there around all these little kids, right? They surrounded themselves by little kids, knowing, and he'll say, oh, and I thought of the children and how we had to protect the children and make things safe for the children. Well, if you're there with them and you're a target and America is under attack, then you don't give a shit about the children, because you're a big target. Somebody could have slammed a 747 into that school and kill a whole bunch of children because they wanted to kill you, but you didn't care, and the Secret Service didn't care, and all these super intelligent people that were surrounding you didn't care, because they knew that there was no danger, because they knew it wasn't, because they knew they were the ones in control of the whole thing. Cheney's orchestrating it in a basement in the Pentagon, right? Okay, and here's the deal, and I've always thought that's just like crucial evidence right there that they knew that it was an inside job, regardless of who pulled it off. They knew it was an inside job. Now, or at least that they were in no danger, which is impossible to know if you're under attack and at war. Okay, now that the evidence that the media is covering up here is such a beautiful, and this is why I love this being discussed in the mainstream media, because Tweety here, our buddy, our hardball buddy, wants to ask these other journalists, anybody ever come up to you and say, Building 7?
In this very conservative state
Have you
of South
had anybody
Carolina.
come up to you and say Building 7? Have you had Building 7?
No,
Oh,
no.
Walk around. Be on television a little more. You'll get the Building 7 guys.
Here, our buddy, our hardball buddy, wants to ask these other journalists, anybody ever come up to you and say, Building 7? Because, okay, and the one guy says, no. Dana Milbank fucking laughs like it's funny. Ha ha ha, that's a joke. That's hilarious, man. Okay, it ain't funny. Building 7 is the key to the whole thing being blatant. The whole world knows it's a lie. Building 7, fell straight down. Nothing touched it. They had no reason. Buildings don't do that. It was one of the most secure buildings on the planet. The CIA had headquarters there in New York. The SEC, the FEC, had headquarters there in New York. A lot of records got torched. Okay. Now, this is the thing. They say, has anybody come up to you and said Building 7? And they go, no, because they can't talk about that. I can't believe Chris Matthews talking about it. He says, anybody say Building 7 to you? Anybody ever come up to you and say Building 7? And it's because, and the reason that he says that, the reason I'm saying that this is a cover-up is because it happens to all of them. It happens so much. He's like, just wait, just walk around a little bit, it'll happen. And that's because it happens to them every single fucking day. And the guy who said no is fucking liar. Okay? Because people want the truth. They still want the truth. That's the only way out of this endless war bullshit. And it's clear evidence to me, because if somebody said, anybody ever come up to you and talk about Building 7? And if you were a journalist, if you're an intelligent person seeking knowledge, if you're somebody who's supposed to know the facts, you say, and nobody had ever said that to you, you say, no, Building 7, what is Building 7? Tell me. Not, no, I don't want to talk about that. No, not Building 7. No. Clear evidence that the mainstream media helped cover all this shit up, which again is clear evidence that there was something to cover up. I'm not saying I know what happened, but I know for a fact that the government and the media are working together and lying their asses off to us about it. I know for a fact. And to me, this right here is clear evidence. So take it if you want it or not. I just thought I should point it out. All right, so if you want to see the full George Bush with Jeb Bush rally in South Carolina, it is available at the Alternate Mox News YouTube page, and you can find a clickable link to the Alternate Mox News YouTube page in the text body of this video. If you look right below the video, there's a little box that says show more, and then it says Alternate Mox News YouTube page. Click here, and there's a clickable link, and it'll take you right to that. And at the top of the listings, there's a George W. Bush with Jeb Bush rally in South Carolina. And if you want to see it, you know, but you don't need to. You're not missing anything out. But again, that's why these people, the journalists, aren't talking about Project for a New American Century. They all know about that. They all get asked about that. And they're not asking Jeb, why did you sign something that calls for a new Pearl Harbor event? Because they're in on the cover-up. That's their job. They're supposed to ask questions like, why on earth would you sign a document that calls for a new Pearl Harbor type event in America? Why? They know that's a real document. They know he signed it. They're in on the whole thing. They're evil. And when I get the chance, I got to point it out. So I didn't mean to take up so much of your time today, but some of these things just have to be said clearly. And sorry if I'm not stating it clearly enough, but I'm trying. And that's the best that I can do. So, and if you want to help, there's a clickable link to make a contribution to Mox News in the text body of the video also. Okay, and it's all very much appreciated. I would not even ask for any help at all if I didn't need it. But the only reason I'm still here is because you guys have helped. And I thank you all for that. It's because of you guys that Mox News is still here and still moving forward and still fighting the good fight. And it's nice to be here when they're talking about 9/11 in the mainstream media. Because one of these days, we're going to kick their asses with this 9/11 crap. We're going to shove it straight up their asses, Building 7 and all. Stay cool till that day.
Compassion stirred the Buddha to send his monks out into the community. Sworn to chastity and poverty, they wandered the roads, bringing the Buddha's teachings into the world. Go forth, monks, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. There are beings whose eyes have little dust on them, who will perish if they do not hear the teaching. But if they hear the teaching, they will gain liberation.
The monks exist by begging. We think of begging as kind of a bad thing. Begging in this tradition is a good thing. It's a sign of spiritual purity.
You're not allowed to beg tomorrow's lunch today. Only today's lunch. Then you can't eat from noon until dawn the next day. Then you have to go out and get another lunch. And then in exchange for lunch, you give a lecture. Unless they say we don't want to hear about it, then you don't. But that's the only thing but that forces you to interact with the lay community.
And if you're not serving them, if you're not doing something useful for them, they won't put anything in your bowl, and that will be the end of your community.